Please listen carefully.
Hello, universe. Welcome to the Optimist Daily Update. I'm Amelia Buckley.
And I'm Summers McKay.
We're part of the team behind the Optimist Daily, making solutions the news. We bring you reader-funded solutions news every day in order to change the tenor of news media, social media, and the direction of your day to one focused on solutions.
7 days a week, we publish positive news stories written by award-winning journalists and delivered online to your inbox and through our social channels. And also, we are sharing these solutions in a commute-worthy, walk-worthy, home office-worthy, Summers just gets a new partner every day-worthy podcast. Well, Amelia, it's lovely to have you here on Wednesday, the 30th of September, 2020.
Thanks for having me, Summers. I'm excited to be back. Well, back on with my voice rather than secretly listening while you record.
Right. Rather than listening and sending us little messages and giving us thumbs up when we need to move along and, all the different ways Amelia tries to produce Kristy and I. Well, as you guys know, Kristy is still in her oasis of human contact, and we asked her if she wanted to join the podcast. We gave her the option because we didn't want to assume that her oasis of human contact was enough, and guess what? It was. So she said, nope, you guys are still on. But I do know that Kristy misses all of you amazing listeners, and she will be back next week. But until then, Amelia and I are in the hot seats. So, been kind of a crazy week. Lots has happened. Amelia and I were briefly talking about a discourse that occurred on television last night. The presidential debate was on, and many people have watched it, and many people have opinions about it. I know that I tried to turn it on for about 5 minutes. I got the baby situated, playing in my room, helping me sort laundry. I thought if I had her entertained, I could catch some of it. And actually, the animosity and the inflammation between the speakers and the moderator was so intense that it made my baby girl cry. So I had to turn it off. And I am really sad because this is not the way political discourse should happen in our country. This is not collaboration. This is not solution focused. This is checkmate arguments of, I wouldn't even say kindergartners, because perhaps that's too rude to kindergartners. Although, Amelia, what was your experience with listening to this dialogue?
I knew it was going to be a little bit triggering to watch. So my roommates and I, tentatively tuned in. We opened a bottle of wine and we were watching it. And honestly, I was a little bit disappointed. Arguments and political opinions aside, I tuned in because I wanted to actually see if they were going to talk about legitimate policy stances. And I guess that was kind of a lot to ask for in a political debate 30 days before the election. But yeah, I was kind of frustrated. The arguing was obviously childish, but it also just skirted around the fact that we didn't really hear a lot of concrete policy plans from either of the candidates, which is what I was hoping to hear a little bit more about. But yeah, so a little bit frustrating. The responses on Twitter afterwards were pretty comical. That softened the blow a little bit. I was expecting it to be a little chaotic, and we definitely saw that.
Yeah. Kristy and I participated in an interview for a podcast on Monday called Positive Turbulence. Our focus was with a colleague of ours from Canada who runs a solution-based news site called The Tyee. And we had a very comprehensive discussion about solution-based journalism and solution-based thinking, and leveraging design thinking in a way to improve our overall world. And what I would love to encourage politicians, any policymakers, anyone of the future, because in our present, we aren't here, but in the future, let's use design thinking as ways of crafting better ways of having discussions, better ways of having debates, and better ways of affecting change in our world. As many of you know, my husband and I are completely on the opposite sides of a lot of political issues. We are very careful in our house, and we have to have a lot of respect for one another. He did, however, this morning say one thing about the debate that cracked me up. he suggested that for the next debate, he and his friends were getting together and putting together a petition to have Samuel L. Jackson be the moderator. And if you know Samuel L. Jackson, if you don't, there's a great book he reads called Go the Bleep to Sleep. Anyway, that perhaps is the current solution, is Samuel L. Jackson moderating, but future solutions, guys, let's use design thinking. Let's do this better. This is ridiculous. We are better than this. We have a better world. We have change in the positive. And every day we are able to, at the Optimist Daily, find 10 solution-based stories. So let's focus on solutions. And that is my political rant for the day. Kristy would have my head if she heard me doing this. But she's not here today. Ha ha. No. Okay, Amelia, what did you like from the Optimist Daily today?
Well, my story I actually was interested in because I opened my phone this morning and my Photos app gives me little notifications on like 2 years ago today or a year ago today. And the one this morning from 2 years ago today was actually my friends and I were in Munich at Oktoberfest. And so I thought that was pretty a funny coincidence because I also opened the Optimist Daily this morning and found my favorite story, which is Meat-Loving Germany is quickly becoming vegetarian.
Before you get into the story on the Optimist Daily, paint a picture for your trip to Oktoberfest. Tell us what it was like.
It was pretty awesome. I was studying abroad in Ireland, but I had a lot of friends that were in different parts of Europe. So we all met in Munich for Oktoberfest and we rented a little Airbnb. We all wore the Drindle dresses and all dressed up. And it's pretty crazy. Imagine an American fair, like a county fair, but with just like 10 times the amount of beer. But it was so much fun. You know, you go in and all of these tents are run by different breweries and they all have super good food, really good pretzels, sausages, all of that. And you kind of just wander around. There's even rides that you can go on, which we went on a couple of those. It's interesting that people from all over, not only Germany, but from all around the world come to this event. I met people from Australia, from China, actually. I met some people from South America. Like people had traveled from all over the world to be there. It was pretty cool.
Well, a little walk down memory lane, because I imagine Oktoberfest is not happening in the way that it has previously in Europe this year. But it is also, there is a change to the German appetite. So let's talk about Germany becoming vegetarian.
So basically, a team of researchers from Berlin, Bath, and Franche-Comté all came together to study German eating habits through a survey. And they found that 42% of Germans surveyed said that they were deliberately reducing their consumption of meat. This doesn't mean that they're all becoming vegans, but they were doing this by becoming either vegetarian, pescatarian, or flexitarian, and some were becoming vegan. But basically, it kind of highlights the change that needs to happen in our eating consumptions, where not everybody needs to go vegan, but if everybody reduces their meat consumption by a little bit every week, it can make a big difference in our meat-related carbon emissions. Essentially, the researchers were surprised to find that they had reached a tipping point in Germany in its attitude towards meat consumption earlier than previously assumed. People were reducing their meat consumption a lot sooner than they expected, which is pretty cool. It kind of also shows how you can have a cultural transition. You have a lot of people in a country that are adopting new eating habits that tends to affect the eating habits of other people in that country and kind of quickens that transition to reducing meat consumption.
You know, reducing meat consumption and moving in a more vegetarian direction does not mean abandoning meat altogether. It does mean, you know, eat more plants, making more green decisions. And I think that there is a huge move in that eat local concept that can help us move more toward vegetarian mindsets. For those who are meat eaters and continue to be, I am a somewhat former meat eater. I eat it occasionally now, simply because physically it's not great for me to continue to do so. But there is absolutely, in my opinion, there is nothing wrong with being a meat eater, but being a conscientious meat eater is a really important tool. And eating local is very difficult, but certainly if you focus on eating more greens and more plants and you live where there is abundance, then this is a great way to slowly sort of tick away at eating meat. Amelia, are you a meat eater?
I am an aspiring less meat eating person. I I am not a vegetarian, but out of just the way that my dietary habits are, I end up only eating meat about once or twice a month. Partially because of the environmental reasons, partially because meat is just more expensive. I just tend to eat not that much, but when I go home and visit my parents and stuff like that, they eat a little bit more meat, so I end up eating more meat when I do that.
Well, speaking of increasing eating things, we're going in both directions here on Optimist Daily Update. My headline is from the environment section of the Optimist Daily, and it reads, "New super enzyme eats plastic 6 times faster than the previous one." So I think Amelia said about 2018, we reported on plastic eating enzyme, and it was a great story. And what this update is basically scientists have harnessed the power of bacteria and created a super enzyme that degrades plastic bottles. And basically, the initial plastic eating enzyme was created in 2018 when we first wrote about it. But this updated version from researchers at the University of Portsmouth, UK, is a vastly more efficient plastic gobbler. It's able to consume 90% of plastic bottles within 10 hours. It does have to operate under warm conditions. And a new 1 million pound testing center is being built in Portsmouth, as well as one run by Carbios in Lyon to make the enzyme even more effective. So I love this story because I think that ways of reducing the durability and the length of time plastic stays in our world is phenomenal. I am also terrified of this story because making these super enzymes that eat things, I just all of a sudden imagine a super enzyme, up in the space station, right? They have, moss that eats mold on the space station or something. And, I have this post-apocalyptic sci-fi fear that our world is going to be consumed by, drones delivering super enzymes. But I also think that this story is a really good reminder to reduce our plastic waste. And I am struggling so much in my own life, in my own home, with the amount of waste that we have created on a weekly basis. I am, for the most part, on trash duty. My son will break down the Amazon boxes that come in. And yesterday's story about the circular economy for takeout food was fantastic. But I see us throwing away, a dozen of the black plastic and clear white top takeout food a week, and it just kills me. And even though we can recycle it and use it as mediocre Tupperware, our whole kitchen is overflowing. And anyway, I'm feeling very frustrated because I think our solution is not just enzyme eating plastic, but I don't exactly know how to re-envision in this COVID world feeding a family of 5 without some takeout containers.
That's true. What was the company we talked about yesterday, Dispatch Goods, that's doing the circular economy takeout? I think we need to definitely look into that. I would love it even if I could drop off my own Tupperware and have them put the takeout in and then take it.
Yeah, that would be phenomenal. And certainly there are brands who create slightly more durable plastic, like yogurt containers, or actually Amelia delivered some sourdough starter to my son in an ice cream container. What was the ice cream? What's the company's name?
It's Talenti. They make ice cream containers with screw-on tops. And so those are my go-to reusable DIY Tupperware.
Yeah. So yay, Talenti. We actually, I think, have a number of those because I think the kids eat Talenti ice cream with their dad a lot. I think we had another story in the Optimist Daily today about single-serving plastics and a reduction of using the styrofoam containers. I think it was New Jersey. We'll go through the headlines later. But this is a big situation, guys. Like everything trucking to landfills, the efficacy of recycling is greatly reduced right now. We have got to get a handle on our waste. And even one of the stories yesterday, which was about sewage management and trying to reduce fatbergs from our sewage, right? So you've got floating islands of trash and fatbergs all in our ocean. And this is just not a good direction. We have got to get a handle on it. So yes, plastic eating enzymes, definitely a start. but figuring out a way to reduce our overall use while maintaining our life, while keeping our jobs, while taking care of our children at home during COVID. I am on a tear today, aren't I? It must be Wednesday.
How about we refocus on solutions by sharing some of our other headlines we've got going on today?
Okay, fine. Yes, please take me back into solutions. And I really did. I sat on my couch this morning, I lit a candle, and I read the solutions. And it did start my day really beautifully. But of course, that was 5 hours ago. So
lighting a candle plays
Exactly.
in really well to our first other story that we have on our Optimist Daily headlines today. Think like a Norwegian may help you cope with a winter lockdown. Basically, it's just saying that adopting a positive wintertime mindset and looking at the pro-winter aspects of it can help you boost your mood during the wintertime. And people in Norway do this a lot because they have such a long winter and it's so dark that they're essentially forced to look at the upsides of winter. Otherwise, they would completely lose their minds.
It would just go downhill. We also have a story about 3D bioprinting as the future of non-invasive surgery. I didn't choose this one because I figure everybody's sick of hearing about my abdominal surgeries, but 3D bioprinting actually going in and fixing hernias or helping with reproductive issues is a pretty exciting thing. There's an air purifier that filters the air in your home in an eco-conscious way. Maryland, that was the state to implement a foam container ban. What else?
We've got a park in Copenhagen that is designed to stop rainwater from flooding the streets. Could be very useful in some southern U.S. states that I know are experiencing some pretty hefty flooding lately. We've got a new rapid and affordable COVID test that's being rolled out worldwide, improving the speed of testing to try and cut off potential infectors faster than before. And telecommuting can slash emissions should it be required. This is a good work-life reflection story on the value of telecommuting and its impact on our world. And last but not least, we have 65 country leaders pledged to reverse destruction of nature. So this is a biodiversity pledge to improve conservation of endangered ecosystems around the world.
All right. Well, all of the nations that have signed that, awesome. All of the nations that haven't, get on it. And until then, everyone, thank you for listening to today's Hump Day version of the Optimist Daily Update. We promise to continue to share positive, solution-based stories with ideas on how you can participate in this changing world and ensure it is changed for good. We promise to cover the current events with accuracy, legitimate sources, and offer you the information needed most to chart new paths for all of us.
And please consider becoming an emissary on theoptimistdaily.com, and for just $5 a month, support reader-funded, independent journalism. Be part of the solution changing consciousness and addressing our world's biggest challenges with a problem-solving mindset. Let's keep the Optimist Daily free to all who need it, supported by those who can.
Thank you, Amelia. I will see you tomorrow, and everybody else have a fantastic day.